And we are live. Right, sorry about that hiccup, but I think my bandwidth wasn't strong enough to carry the program. So we're back at Hangouts. Okay, welcome Petra and Wilberts. And back to our discussion again. Okay, you wanted to talk about MDC and Zanu PF, and also there was a little quick discussion that Wilbert was having. I'll leave it up to you two.
I'll reopen it again. Hello, Toko.
Hi. Sorry, I need to mute my mic. Hi. Yeah, okay. I can.
The item was talking about actually appears in the New Zimbabwe, and the article is the opposition MDC went into government of national unity between 2009 to 2013 without a plan and failed to utilize the opportunity. New party leader Nelson Chamisa has admitted, while the MDC has consistently claimed glory for stabilizing the economy, after then, the party leader, Morgan Tsvangirai, joined the Arch for and ex-President Robert Mugabe following the inconclusive elections of 2008. Chamisa said the opposition went into government set and at. Chamisa was speaking at the launch of the opposition's latest policy blueprint titled Return to Economic Recovery, Legitimacy, Openness and Democracy, in brackets, reload, in Harare, vowing never to repeat the same mistake. We got in the inclusive government and just sat there, spent 5 years in there. We came out without doing anything. We will not do that. Dialogue must have timelines that are very clear. The international community must tick us, mark us on the boxes, said Chamisa. What I find interesting with that article is this is the first, one of the rare occasions, as far as I remember, that MDC have finally admitted that during the GNU, they failed to implement any meaningful reforms. And what I also find interesting is that he is, again, typical of MDC, trying to blame others, because there was a plan. The SADC, who they did a lot of things badly, I agree and accept, but I think the one thing they did right was they did get the three parties, MDC, the two factions of MDC and Zanu PF, to agree to the political, the global political agreement, the GPA, which was the one that was the legal basis for the formation of the government of national unity. And also in it, it was agreed that the government of national unity will implement a raft of democratic reforms, the end product of which was going to be free, fair, and credible elections. And those free, fair, and credible elections, to ensure that we did not repeat the cheating and the vote rigging of 2008. And this is now what Chamisa is saying, we did not implement any. We sat there for 5 years and ate and did nothing. And this idea that it was because there was no plan is a lie. Because SADC, fair is fair, credit where credit is due. They did try to get MDC to implement the reforms throughout the last GNU, and they failed. Because SADC, Mugabe had bribed Morgan Tsvangirai and Chamisa and Tendai Biti and all the rest of the MDC leadership to the point where they forgot completely about implementing the reforms, as Chamisa is now finally admitting. So this admission is important in the sense that it gives us a basis for what are we going to do next? How are we going to find our way out of this mess? And also, it is important in the sense that it now sets this point as a historic fact, i.e., that MDC failed to implement any meaningful reforms. So far, they've been dilly-dallying and avoiding answering any questions directly on the issue, and sometimes outright denying or blaming other people for their failures. But now they've admitted it. It's now a historic fact. And therefore, then when we discuss, we are no longer, it's not discussing Toko's opinion or my opinion or Sally's opinion. This is a historic fact. And I think that is important.
Yeah, I don't know. Two things came to mind after I kind of browsed through my comments about what Chamisa said. The first one being, whenever you find yourself questioning somebody's motives for saying something, then there's something behind it. And that leads to the question, what are we looking at? What's really going on? Is he laying the groundwork for another GNU and then kind of laying the groundwork here? Look, yeah, it didn't work because obviously there are a lot of people who oppose GNU now. So then that means, oh, no, not really. You know what? Ziva didn't do anything, and his people and Banabiti and so forth. I'm reluctant to say that. Here's why. There's a speech that was given recently in Nabiti, whether it was a lecture and it so happened to be live or I don't remember. But he explained clearly when he was set up, akapuwa position akapuwa finance, and then he had to pay my salaries and there was no money. Now, whether he was actually bribed or not, I'm kind of sitting on the fence regarding that one. The reasons, and I don't remember again old age and all that, which article or which document I read, yanga compiled from overseas. Yeah, kuti how Zanu PF has managed to dilute MDC to such an extent kuti it became very powerless. Zanu PF, let's not, when they peddle nonsense, Zabo, people, we kind of look at them like, they're just, normal people. Zanu PF are not normal by any chance. They are thugs. Hakuna thug yakaipafanika an intelligent thug. An intelligent thug in a like manipulative, not only very manipulative, they have no boundaries. Avachike kuuraya munhu to meet my ends avo, avachike kuroba, havana maboundaries ekuti ukaona makomana tikaona utasvika apa watombomira. For them, repeatedly, I always say the reason why Zimbabweans we are where we are is we are very reactive. And atina foresight yekuona kumberi, and rarely do we actually look not only 5 years, but we have a tendency not to look 20, 30 years behind us. If let's assume Zanu PF, including GNU, just for argument's sake, let's assume they were working for a bank. They were given a thriving bank with so many contracts. And within 10 years, aicha any profit. Not only that, my assets are tengeswa and apana nema receipts ekuti my assets aenda kupi, and so forth and so on, really being stripped down. Do you think they'll still be at work? Or 90%, if not 100% of them will be in jail? So we tend to forgive, forget, and look at and then we don't look at the pattern. Yes, ZANU-PF. They are good. Hakuna vanhu vakangwarisa seZANU-PF yakadzidzisa vanhu vavo kuti endai learn from the best. Kuti kunobiwa sei, propaganda inofamba sei. I will give you a good example of why no matter what happens, Chamisa, I heard where this is going, but I want to bring you back to ZANU-PF so that people know when you marry a thief and a murderer, why people end up saying you're a thief and a murderer too. ZANU-PF has consistently, not only worn down my pillars in human dignity. ZANU-PF is the only place where you know vanoba even Maria HIV/AIDS yekubatsira vana. ZANU-PF is the only place yaunoziva kuti vanoramba vanoeducatana vokupai propaganda yakapusa. And I was going to point out recently kurohwa kwakaita moyo haana kurohwa. Vakaona videos. It was how then it was so blown out of proportion and there was almost hysteria about it. Because when ZANU-PF have mastered the art of using social media to their advantage. Oh, how dare you do that? And then, as if that was not insulting enough, they actually used the victimized to start identifying vanhu vacho who supposedly are protesting. Tinavo isusu vanhu munomu vanorohwa vanokandirwa anonzi ani munhu anotyiwa of all people. Trump akarohwa nefoni wani musi unawo. It's normal. It's dealt with in a way if the local authorities don't arrest vanhu. But to show you the level of the power of the fear that they have, look at social media today, how people were reacting. No. So going back to Mary, it GNU. If Chamisa decides, and please, that BS of Papa's plan, we all know there was a plan. People don't handshake over a glass of water. They shook hands. We remember when and there were tables and people were signing. There was a plan that was agreed upon. So what I'm going to say is this, and my advice, Chamisa, don't come and fluff people and blame Vaivarimu. The reason being, instead, try to rewrite history, because that kind of then makes people like me who support him kind of go, what are you really trying to implement? We have had enough lies from these other people. We want transparency from you. You have to be strong and be principled and stand on my policies. MDC Miraiwayo. If you decide to go into another GNU, sell it to us, Nema facts. Don't go into something that you were not involved in the first place. Chamisa was not part of that group. And therefore, he has no role and no room to start talking upon Zvakaitike Papa. Moving forward, he should clearly outline kuti isusu iye zvino nekuti tapatava apa zvatiri kufunga ndezvekuti A, B, C, D. Patichanida your help imimi vanhu ndepekuti A, B, C, D. Isusu paticha draw the line. If ZANU-PF does A, B, C, D, then isusu we are not going forward. And we will come back to vanhu tokuudzai. The mistake that people, Chamisa will make today is thinking because all along ZANU-PF has been selling dads to people. We are going to buy dads from people who are supposed to advocate for the poor. We want, and I'm sure Vanwakawanda will be behind MDC. If they are honest, vosumuka vachitaura zvavo iye zvaari kufunga. Opa ma reasons. Haikona fluffing us. No jokes, no nothing. Clearly articulating kuti yes, we are at the table, tiri kutaurirana pamusaka pekuti taona zvinhu zvakaoma. Asi isusu ma-safeguards hatichaita kuitira kuti tione kuti ma-goals edu, they're going to be achieved within certain time frame, whether it's 2 months, 3 months, 3 months, or 3 years. These are the steps that we will be taking. And my measurements achona you should be seeing imimi vanhu nekuti hamuna electricity yezvino mari iri kushayikwa kunzi yakabhadharwa haina kubhadharwa electricity. These are the things that we are going to be working with them. Tichaenda tichinonegotiate overseas kuitira kuti ma-investors auye, the safeguards in place are A, B, C, D. Now the day I hear people talking like that, I'll pay attention. As for today's headlines, that is BS. I feel fooled, and I'm kind of, I'm not upset really, but I kind of go, you know what, that's tissue paper for another day, period.
Yeah, I take your arguments there, but I think the important thing there on this argument is, yes, that reload is actually a preparation for a formation of another GNU, because that is what FDC is now calling for, where there is power sharing and they can implement the democratic reforms. And part of the reforms is these comprehensive reforms to ensure that future elections are free, fair, and credible. And earlier on, what Sally was saying was that MDC have said in the past that there would be no elections without reforms. And I think we are going back to that because that is part of this new plan, the reload. But I think what, to come back to what you were saying, Toko, there, it is important to separate the economic events during the GNU and the politics. MDC have claimed that they've revived the economy during the GNU, and I think they deserve credit for a number of things that they have revived the economy. But what we should never forget is that the primary purpose of the GNU was formed because the elections of 2008 had been blatantly rigged and there'd been a wanton violence. And the purpose was you should have free, fair, and credible elections and move away from this culture of rigged elections. And that is what Chamisa was talking about here, that when he said we sat and ate and did nothing, that is what he was talking about. On the political front, definitely MDC did not accomplish anything. They did not implement even one single reform. The argument that ZANU-PF has got a very efficient propaganda machine, that I think cannot be denied. It is a historic fact. The fact that ZANU-PF has got thugs cannot be denied. You know, if any of us had forgotten that, we were rudely reminded only a few months ago in January when they shot and killed the protesters. And a few months earlier, in 1st of August, they shot the protesters for protesting that the elections had been rigged. So the ZANU-PF is a part of that. But when it comes to the democratic reforms during the GNU, we cannot point a finger at ZANU-PF. Other than that, ZANU-PF were very clever in bribing the MDC leadership so that they sat and ate. And let's face it, during the GNU, there was a lot of feasting. The ministers, members of parliament, were given generous salaries, all the ministers, and we have never had such a big cabinet, even during Mugabe's time. During the GNU, the cabinet was at its biggest, you know, where you had sometimes as many as 3 or 4 ministers in a ministry, which you scratch your head and say, what exactly do they do? You know, but it was a way of sharing the spoils of power. That was the reason why the cabinet expanded. And in enjoying the benefits of being in cabinet, they honestly forgot to implement even one democratic reform. And that is what they are admitting now. And that is why it is important that we talk note of it. I would disagree with you today, Tokonde, when you say that Chamisa was not part of the past, because he was a minister, in that government. And in any case, the reforms, you didn't need to be in cabinet to get the reforms implemented. Anyone in parliament could have proposed the reforms, and it was up to parliament to discuss them. And one of the things that, in fact, in June 2013, after the summit in SADC summit in Maputo, where SADC leaders tried to pressure MDC to abandon the elections until reforms were implemented. One of the things that Patrick Chinamasa, who was the Minister of Justice and Parliamentary Affairs, Zanu PF, deputized by Obed Kutu, came back and held an interview and called all the members of the diplomatic service. And one of the things that Zanu PF posted then is the MDC should not point a finger and say we failed to implement reforms, because they should tell us when did they propose a reform and we rejected it. And lo and behold, MDC could not point out at any reforms that had been proposed. And to blame Robert Mugabe for failing to sign any of the reforms is again an outrage, because Robert Mugabe would only sign something that Parliament has already passed, and Parliament never approved any political reforms during that GNU. And I think here is a question that is why this admission is so important, because it really confirms the historic facts that MDC during the 5 years of the GNU, they honestly took their eyes off the ball, and they did not implement any reforms. And the important thing for us as a nation is to say, now they want to form another GNU, and they are telling us, this time we'll implement the reforms. What is there for us to make us believe that they will implement the reforms? And that is the important thing that Zimbabweans should seriously look into, because to allow this to go ahead and form another GNU, and then to come to 2023, we are back to where we are today, where Zanu PF has blatantly rigged the elections again, will be unforgivable. I think we would have let the nation down, and that should not be allowed.
Can I interject here? Okay, you guys, do you think that you've covered that little bit of extra discussion? Or Toko, have you got something else that you'd like to add?
Not really, other than just saying that, you know what, giving Zanu PF another opportunity to be the driving force of something that didn't work out before, that is not confidence building. MDC should just stick by its guns and say, we need you out. 2 elections so far, we know they have been rigged. 2. So you are being robbed. Then the robber actually says, well, if you want your car back, why don't you bring the keys? And then we'll drive together in your car. Who does that? No, not at all. So that's why I'm very disappointed with what Chamisa is saying. You should just keep quiet, continue saying, you know what, enough is enough. Zanu PF hand over power to another, to another party. Let the new young generation do what they need to do. Sharing power with those old goons, no, not at all. No.
Okay, my just my little bit of add-on, okay, to this, and then we end this part of the discussion, and we go on to the main part that you guys wanted to discuss. My take on it, ZANU-PF is never going to put in reforms, because they then reform themselves out of complete control, and that's not going to happen. So that's my take on it. Right. Now we're on to the main part of the discussion to do with MDC and ZANU-PF, what you guys wanted to discuss. Over to the two of you.
Do you want to start, Toko?
If okay, you can go ahead, so that we kind of get an idea of what we wanted to talk about. Go on.
Well, I think it follows from the discussion we had before. How are we going to get out of this mess? At the end of the day, the country is in serious trouble. The economy is in total meltdown. The situation cannot carry on as it is. And the way I see it, ZANU-PF point of view is that either Mnangagwa steps down because he has failed, because he is now in exactly the same situation that Robert Mugabe was in towards the time when he was put it out. The economy was in meltdown, and those in the security services were saying at their Joint Operations Command that unless the economy, something is done about the economy, the country could become unstable. Talking of street protests and becoming violent, and if they become nationwide, using violence to end the street protests in the face of the hardships would become unsustainable. So booting out Mugabe was justified along those lines. In fact, if anything at all, the likes of those who carried out the coup, that is the first thing they say, that we're carrying out the coup because the economy is unstable, and there are people around Mugabe who have captured state, and they're causing economic hardships and so forth. And the same thing could be said about Mnangagwa, because the way the economy is going right now, like I mean, we all know that they introduced this new currency, the local currency, as the only legal tender, and instead of the value of that local currency stabilizing, it's soaring. And the other day I was reading that Harare City Council store and plumbing services, the price has been increased by 1,000%. That is only going to fuel more inflation. So we are now on the slippery slope of back to the hyperinflation of 2018. I think the country is, yes, it's becoming politically unstable. And therefore, the ZANU-PF would want to either stage another coup, which many people have talked about, or alternatively, Mnangagwa, if he can get this dialogue going, and maybe rope in all the opposition so that they could all, if not revive the economy, at least share in the blame for the economic meltdown. So the dialogue is being pushed by Mnangagwa, I think more for his own political safety, because if he can rope in the opposition, at least his own party's hardliners would not be blaming him for the economic meltdown. So that is where ZANU-PF is coming from. But I think also, as far as MDC is concerned, this launch of their reload plan is the beginning of their political agitation. They will be using the economic meltdown to take advantage of that to push for Mnangagwa to accept going into this new GNU, which will result in them getting in some cabinet position and back to the GNU of 2008 to 2013. So those are the scenarios for the two political parties. I think the actual solution to Zimbabwe's present political crisis is accepting that the last year's elections were rigged, ZANU PF is illegitimate, and therefore then, as long as Zimbabwe remains a pariah state ruled by corrupt, incompetent, and vote-rigging thugs, no investor is going to invest in that country. So if we want to get out of the mess, we have got to reset that. We've got to get away from this pariah state. And the only way we're going to do that is to accept that last year's election did not produce a legitimate government. And if we can get ZANU PF to step down, and this time, instead of getting another GNU with the same players, we have got to get other players. I think there are many competent Zimbabweans that even between the three of us here, if we were to sit down within 24 hours, I think what we can each at least come out with a list of 5 people whom we think could be involved in the interim administration, and those with the backing of international organizations like the UN could form an interim government that will implement the reforms, that will also help stabilize the economy while the reforms are being implemented, and then holding free and fair elections, and finally get the country out of the mess. That to me is the way forward. Over to you, Sisi Togo.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know. The moment GNU is mentioned, to me, I kind of just turn off. Because I'm sure, like most people who have relocated to Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya, everybody is asking themselves, Tanzania, like, what is so different in Zimbabwe? What is going on? One thing is different. These old men who have power, giving in to them again, sitting down and saying, no, it's just wrong. Absolutely wrong. They should just continue with the pressure that is on them now, even more so than before. Because why? Because that's the only language they understand. Other than that, they go in, they're going to be diluted, they're going to be eaten up, swallowed up, and nothing is going to change. Why? You mentioned earlier on that, it was celebration time during the last GNU. People became complacent. Things started flowing in, investors were starting to come in. It worked. If anything, it gave ZANU PF breathing time to, behind the scenes, go back, reinforce, replan, come back much stronger. And we are seeing the results today. People like, when we were growing up, do you know that Mnangagwa people rarely talked about him? But one thing that I remember very well, everybody kept saying, Mnangagwa ane utsinye. He is cruel. Those are the words that you would hear. Taitinana Joboy, Anatekere, Valani, you rarely heard people, the first thing they would say is, he's a cruel person. That was from the onset. And a few other people as well. I mentioned Okunzi. They're dodgy, but it's like they actually enjoy and take pleasure from pain. And there are about 3 of them. And the 3 of them, nobody in power today. Talk to anybody of our generation, Jesus, who are in their 50s, 60s. They will tell you exactly what I'm telling you. Those people don't understand what diplomacy means. They don't understand. It's like they're old, the people. Like Isusu Takarara Msango, and most of them didn't anyways. Nangago was in Zambia. So it's like Isusu, yes, takasafa tatri muhondo imimi mamurugo takakurwira. So we have the last saying. Any country that has done that, nothing good has come out of it. Look at Khmer Rouge, look at Vietnam. We could go on and on. Where Vakaenda want to come back, take power, and they hold on to it by their teeth, nothing good comes out of it. The message should be one. And not only should it be one, people should really have that thirst, that longing. Yekuti, we want things to change. And isusu vechidiki, this is inyika ichagarwa nevana vedu, nevazukuru vedu. And what kind of country do we want for vana vedu nevazukuru vedu? And then be prepared to make the sacrifices. The problem, do you know, 2009, I went home, I think 2008, 2009. And one of the ministers didn't know that I was actually in the house. And I told a relative and said, they see life here, this, not the Disney, whatever channel. Those are very interested in. They don't really think about their future and wanting and thirsting for their future. That stuck with me. And they're taking advantage of that. All they do is spend time on Facebook. And if you look at that video, it is quite sad. Ice cream. What is ice cream? And you're really happy with that. And then they are leading really good lives. They're driving motorcars which we can't afford. And yet, isusu ndosaka paine that disparity yekuti vanhu vari in diaspora, we seem to talk more about equal rights, about what really, about governance, really proper, good old governance. That's why there's that huge gap. Because they're so complacent, they're happy with what they have. But until those young people, and they are there, mind you, I'm not saying every one of them. It's for those who are there, who are really woke, kuti vachitanga kueducate vamwe vavo and really want to have a saying. In closing, I'm going to say this. Nigeria, in my youth, do you know kuti they actually go from place to place, my youth? Vachitouya kutaurira kuti this is hazvisi kufamba izvi. Council or minister kataura zvisina basa, they step in. Until the youth realize and know the power that they have and start utilizing it and channeling it in the right direction, but you support chosen leaders, we will be talking the way we are talking for until they say this old generation yafa. Malawi used to be a joke, a practical joke, Malawi, because they had somebody who was so cruel, Kamuzu Bandi, really cruel, dark in so many senses. And I remember Panga Kunofa, you could see it was like my chains falling off Malawi. Unfortunately, unless people really get their whatever together, that is what we'll have to wait for it to happen before any changes happen. GNU, they can do it. That's fine. History will repeat itself. Sorry, I rambled on.
Dr. Saleh, do you want to say something before I?
Okay, my view on the GNU. It's a lot of rubbish. I mean, you see, this is what people do not get. You can bring up anything you want to discuss in Parliament, okay? But due to the fact that there are more Zanu guys in Parliament than MDC guys, unless the MDC guys work certain Zanu PF MPs, okay, and try and get them onto their side and stuff like that, you can discuss reforms until cows get born as milking machines and the world turns upside down, okay? ZANU-PF is not going to out-reform itself. It doesn't matter about a GNU, okay? It does not matter. Because ZANU-PF is not going to kick itself out. And that's what those reforms will do. They will make ZANU-PF virtually powerless. And it ain't going to do that. So GNU, carry on, have your GNU. But I'll say, like I have said 1,000,000 times, until the people inside Zimbabwe decide that they have had enough, we can sit here and we can discuss everything and anything. We can hand out solutions like they are chewing gum, okay? It'll make no difference. The change has to come from within Zimbabwe. And that means the povo, the people inside. And as long as everybody is championing a cult figure like Chamisa, I don't see it happening in the next 5 years. I really don't. So that's my take on the GNU. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys want to discuss?
Can I just comment on that one? I think it is important to underline the point that the last GNU did improve the economy, but it did not change anything on the political front. That is why in 2013, at the end of the GNU, ZANU-PF was able to rig the elections and revert back to what was happening before. In this particular case, in fact, they proved on it. And I agree with Toko there that the GNU, it looks like it was time for ZANU-PF to regroup and restructure and make sure that they came back strong. But if the reforms had been implemented, that would not have happened. That is why it is important that whatever administration, call it an interim administration, call it a transition authority, call it whatever we like, it cannot include ZANU-PF again. Because I agree with Sally there that ZANU-PF will never allow any meaningful reforms to take place, because ZANU-PF will never reform itself out of power, period. So that point is something that we should understand. And therefore, then that comes back to what MDC is proposing, that this interim authority that they are proposing, which will include ZANU-PF, and ZANU-PF will definitely be in the driving seat, in the sense that they will have the majority in cabinet, they will have the two-thirds majority in parliament, they have two-thirds majority in the Senate, and to see that, and to expect that a strong ZANU-PF like that will ever implement any meaningful reforms is being unrealistic. So I think that it is important to understand, could the interim administration we come up with cannot include ZANU-PF. In fact, SADC included ZANU-PF in the last GNU to give Mugabe a soft landing. And unfortunately, it did not work that way, because it ended up giving Mugabe the opportunity to regroup. And to think that we can give ZANU-PF another soft landing is pathetic. So that is why I maintain that we cannot entertain MDC's proposed agenda where they form this interim government with ZANU-PF. I think it is important. I know Sisito keeps talking of the youth and pressing a lot of hope in the youth. I think it is important that we should all play our role. The youth, young and old, everybody should be involved, and everybody has got a role. And I think everybody could play a very active role in bringing about meaningful change in Zimbabwe. And I honestly don't agree that youth is the magic. We should not forget even on Mnangagwa when they got into power. They were younger than Chamisa when they got into power. At least Vanavana Joyce Mujuru, she was 27, if I'm not mistaken, when she became Deputy Minister of Women's Affairs or whatever. And Mnangagwa was not, if he wasn't the same age as Chamisa, he was even younger. So, and Mugabe, okay, he wasn't 90, but he was 50, so he was young, and all these people were young at one point, and yet that didn't stop them becoming a dictatorship. So the same applies to the youthful MDC. They were young, they were even younger 10 years ago, and yet now they are admitting that they sat and were busy enjoying themselves and failed to implement even one reform. They were even younger than they are today. So youth is not a magic thing, just as much as we should be careful not to emphasize issues of tribe and gender and so forth. No one has got the solution to the problem we have. I know Sisi Sally keeps referring to Povo. I honestly think to Povo, particularly those in the rural areas, they look up to their children or their relatives who have gone to school, who are a bit more enlightened, and to give them some guidance. Because at the present moment, particularly in the rural areas, the poor in the rural areas are under the thumb of ZANU-PF. There's just been by-elections in Pikita East, I think, and some other place. I think it's in Yanga or something. And ZANU-PF won those. Rural areas, I contested one parliamentary election. In the rural areas, ZANU-PF has got the dominance because they will tell the rural people that if you don't do A, B, C, D, you will be asked to leave the village, for instance, or you'll be denied food aid. This year, for instance, 5.7 million people are going to need food aid. They have no food. And if you're going to take the risk of voting for the opposition and be told that you're going to be denied food aid, that could mean the difference between life and death. And so the rural people will always be used by ZANU-PF until we implement the reforms. So to expect the Povo to be at the vanguard of meaningful political change in Zimbabwe, I honestly don't think it is ever going to happen, for the simple reason that ZANU-PF has got them under their thumbs, and we, particularly in this case, MDC has let the people down in the sense that they have accepted the status quo, where ZANU-PF can use food, can use agricultural inputs to intimidate and coerce the rural people, as if that is perfectly normal. And I think if somebody's got to speak out, it is people like you and me who can speak out, who are not immediately under the Zanu PF thumb. Those in the rural areas will not speak out. Thank you.
They will. You don't give them credit enough. And that upsets me, because the backbone of Zimbabwe since time began has been the rural areas. You know, if I had the money and the clout, that is one area that I would work on religiously, and not from any political point whatsoever, other than to give them back their independence and their dignity that they've always had, okay? Because they are the backbone of Zimbabwe. They're the roots, and they deserve it. You see, this is where youth is very, very important. This is where the youth of MDC, I mean, going and showing their allegiance, declaring their allegiance to Chamisa. I have never been so angry as I was that day. Because their allegiance is to the people, not to a political leader. Their allegiance is to the people. And they should be out there serving the people. You want black empowerment, you want empowerment. You go to the places that are out of reach, okay, to empower those people to be able to support themselves like they used to. Okay, that's where the youth should be. And I don't know, I'm very frustrated. That's why I stay out of these discussions, because it just frustrates me completely and utterly. We in the diaspora can do nothing really except talk. We can do nothing really except talk. The meaningful change has to come from within the country. That's how we got rid of Smith. People in the country leaving to fight for freedom. So they didn't go out the country and just talk. They took up arms, put their lives on the line, and so many thousands of them died for that freedom. And unless us in the diaspora are prepared, and forget it, I'm not. I can't kill somebody. Sorry. But unless we're prepared to take up arms, then we can only talk. Nothing else. The meaningful change comes from within. Comes from the people that matter, that count, the ones that are suffering day in and day out, the ones that have to go poo in the bush because there's no water coming to their homes because of the drought, okay? No provisions have been made, nothing, okay? The people that are sitting without electricity, the people that go to do groceries at the end of the month and can't afford to buy a month's groceries. Those are the people that count. Those are the people that matter. Those are the people that hold the power for change. And we have to keep on telling them that. We have to keep on, as far as I'm concerned, we've got to keep on letting them know that they are the ones that can change. We there to back them up, yeah, to support, but they are the ones that hold the power. No interim thing. I couldn't give you one name of one politician to go into an interim, whatever you want to call it, fandangle. I can't, because there's no politician that I trust. There's no politician that's there representing people. They're in it for power and nothing more. Because the people have been too busy scrumping on the ground, trying to make a meal for the next lunch or dinner or breakfast, or trying to get together school fees, trying to get together money for medicine, whatever, okay? They're too busy scrumping and scraping, and the politicians are getting away with murder. We've got to get the people lifting their heads up and their eyes up off the ground, and not thinking about the next 2-3 hours, but thinking about a whole 24 hours, and then 7 days, and then a month, and then realizing that they have the power to change the rest of their lives.
But Sally, would
This
you
is what our responsibility is.
Yeah, but would you agree that for the liberation war, the povo that took up the gun are the ones who became the politicians of today?
No, not all of them. Not all of them.
Not all of them, I agree.
Not all of them.
I agree. Nobody's disputing that. But nonetheless, a significant number of them became the politicians of today. And Zanu
Yes.
is dominated by those people who believe they fought the liberation war and they fought.
But you see, this is what you lose when you're saying these things. What has happened in Zimbabwe, the people have allowed to happen. Okay? They have allowed it to happen for whatever reason. It has, the people hold the power. I don't care what anybody says. The people hold the power. And if the people stood up to what was going on until do or die, there's nothing ZANU PF could do. It would try, but if they realized that the resilience of the people was way beyond their means, they would have to back down. But when you're prepared to swim a river, once you get to the other side of that river or walk across the river, you are open to rape, abduction, murder, sex trafficking. When you're prepared to face that, you're allowing ZANU PF to get the complete power that it's got. And now, how do we get rid of it? We can talk, yes, from the outside. Oh, we can talk. I've talked for 20-something years. I'm still talking the same things. It hasn't changed. Because why? The people inside are not talking. A few of them are, but not enough to matter. And when those few do stand up and talk, there's nobody behind them. There's nobody behind them. And this is what we've got to learn all over again. We are the ones that hold the power. Not me personally. The people inside Zimbabwe hold the power to determine the rest of their lives. We can shout rigging. We can shout whatever we want. It makes no difference. None. You see what difference it's made? Nothing's changed. Everything's just got worse. And we're still shouting rigging, and we're still shouting where, and everything else. Nothing's changed. Nothing. That's why I stay out of it, because I can't abide by the excuses. I can't abide by the avoidance of reality, the avoidance of hitting a problem straight on. I can't deal with it anymore. I can't. That's why I'll be a host. And nothing more, because I'm 63 years old. It's 40 years of my life. I've been fighting a fight that goes nowhere. That my sister has to go poop in the bush. And she has no TV. That's why I tell you, the power comes from within, not outside. I've had CIO on my tail. I've had CIO threaten me. I've had CIO invade me. And I've never given up, but it's never changed anything inside Zimbabwe. It's made it worse. So don't tell me that the people in the rural area are not able to be the backbone. They are. And it's our duty to give them back their independence, not to judge them. It's our duty to give them back their dignity. And we can only do that by working with them, not against them, and saying that they are not able to do this or not. They are able. They are. They have been. That's where my past comes from. Not Chitangwiza, not wherever. My past comes from the dirt in the rural areas. That's where my history is. That's where my soul is. So don't tell me the rural people can't do it. We can't lower ourselves to, we can't go back to the beginning, because no, it's hard. It's not lower ourselves. They've got to lower themselves to deal with us. Why aren't we helping them? Why aren't we lifting them up and putting them in the rightful place where they've always been? No, we judge them. Zanu PF goes into them. They go in for all the wrong reasons. But at least somebody's going into them, in for them. Yeah, I broke down because I can't do it anymore. I'm beating against a brick wall. Nobody wants to listen. The power is in the people inside Zimbabwe. They're the ones suffering. They are the ones that day to day have to live with all that stuff. They are the ones that have to realize, they have to wake up. As long as we were thinking for them, they're not going to do it. We've got to encourage them. We've got to lead them. We've got to guide them, not tell them what they're supposed to do. Because it ain't going to work. It hasn't worked. We've shouted rigging for how many years? And it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. Why? Because people bow to it. We don't work with the people inside. We work against them, telling them what to do, pointing fingers at them, blaming them, instead of lifting them up and saying, listen, get your eyes off the ground and look in front of you. Hold your heads high. You are the ones that hold the power to determine the rest of your lives. No, we tell them, you didn't stop the rigging. You must do this. You must do that. It don't work. It hasn't worked for 40 freaking years. It isn't going to work now. It isn't. I can promise you that. No interim, no excuse, no... It's not going to work because the people haven't realized, they haven't got their eyes up off the ground and taken their rightful place. It's easy for them to follow an idiot like Chamisa, because why? They're so busy trying to scrumble and scrape for their next bit of bread, their next bit of clothing, their next bit of rent, their next bit of school fees, their next bit of medicine, okay? That any fool that stands up there with a fantastic bunch of slogans, it's easy to follow them. It's easy. It's harder if you've got to stop and think. Because then you've got to take your eyes off yourself and your struggle and put it into tomorrow's and next year, next week. And that's difficult. And the more we point fingers and the more we condemn them and the more we blame them, the harder it's going to get. And the more they're going to take no notice of what we say. In a way, we are like the white man. We're not going to work with you. We are going to dominate you and tell you what you are supposed to do and what you are doing that is wrong, and you're not allowed to do that anymore. It don't work. It don't work. We have lost the bridge between us and the people back home. We have to find that bridge again. And it's our responsibility to build those people back, to build them up, to help them. Find out what they want, help them, whatever it is, but stop telling them what to do and telling them what they've done wrong. Because we're doing it from a place of comfort. We're doing it from a place of freedom. We're doing it from a place of luxury compared to what they're going through. I can't do this anymore because I can't do it from this place that we've been doing it from. I can be the host, I can provide it, but I can't comment because I lose it like I did today. And I'm sorry that I lost it, but I can't keep it in any longer. Over to you guys.
Choco, do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. That's how frustrated all of us are. I think all of us, the further we are away from from home, things happen and you're not being able to be there, you just feel so helpless. So I feel you, I hear you. But as we say in therapy, change comes when people are ready for it and they are willing to do the hard work. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like as Zimbabweans we are willing to do the hard work. So yeah, all we can do is to wish for it to happen, and to keep talking, keep providing, the support. What else can we do? Nothing much. Uh-huh. And it has been lovely being here. Unfortunately, I have visitors. So have a lovely week, everybody. It was lovely chatting. And it's also good to just know that we're not feeling so alone in our, feeling of being let down by the powers that be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have a lovely week, everybody. Love you to be.
Thank you, darling. God
Uh-huh.
bless.
God bless you.
And I'm sorry about that, but I just can't do it anymore.
No. We feel you. We're there with you. Uh-huh. We feel
Yeah,
exactly
okay.
the same way.
We'll
Uh-huh.
see you next week, and I'll behave myself this time.
All right. You take care now.
You too, darling. God bless. Okay, Wilbert.
Okay.
Closing.
All right. Yeah. Thanks very much for hosting it.
Over to you.
Okay. I thought you said you were closing.
Yeah, your closing.
Oh, closing remarks.
Parting. Yeah, parting remarks. Whatever.
Well, I think the solution to Zimbabwe's political mess and economic mess and political paralysis is is there. We just need to find it. Zimbabwe is not the only country that has had the misfortune of being ruled by ruthless, corrupt, and incompetent thugs. Um, and the solution for it is to find a way of replacing those thugs. And I think we have not been honest in our search for that replacement. I believe that soon after independence, particularly the intellectuals, they've seen what was Zanu-PF was doing, and instead of standing up to them and saying, no, that is not on. Most of the intellectuals, if anything at all, they've joined Zanu-PF to get along, and unfortunately, that has not helped the country at all, and that is why we're in this mess. I'm disappointed, for instance, by the fact that even those in the diaspora, 3 million of us were denied the vote, and we let ZANU-PF get away with it. It's like water off a duck's back. That cannot be right. If we who understand what free and fair and credible elections are say nothing, what more of the people in the rural area who have been systematically denied the voice and and are being bullied by ZANU-PF thugs, a lot more than those in the urban centers. And we definitely in the diaspora, we seem to be free of that. And if we who are free cannot speak out, we can't expect those under the thumb of the regime to voice and bring about change. We have got to help them. In fact, everybody has got to play their role. Maybe we just need to define that role a bit more carefully. And hope we'll have more people joining into the discussion. I think those who are still showing an interest in what is happening in Zimbabwe, personally, I applaud them because uh, those are the people who change things. particularly those in the diaspora, who could easily be saying, I'm comfortable, I don't have to be bothered with what is happening in Zimbabwe. I applaud those who still find time to be concerned about what is happening in Zimbabwe, because they could easily turn their back on those uh, um, millions of ordinary Zimbabweans who are absolutely desperate. And I hope to will have more people in the diaspora spending a lot more time about thinking about what is happening in Zimbabwe and trying to find a solution to it, to the country's problems, in the interests of justice and humanity. Thanks very much, Sally.
Thank you, and I hope that you are speaking to people and that you will bring some more to the panel. We need somebody from the MDC and we need a Zanu PF. Make it more interesting.
I think what we need is people who care about the what is happening. I will send the link of the YouTube to some of my contacts as well.
Yeah.
Okay. It seems like I can open it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you should be able to.
Yeah. I've tried it on my mobile. I'll put
it on.
Now
what happens is the minute I stop broadcasting, okay, then the live goes onto YouTube. Okay, and then you can comment down underneath the YouTube video, not on the live chat.
Okay.
People can leave comments.
All right.
Under the YouTube video. Okay. Thank you very much, Wilbert. And good night, Zimbabweans, wherever you are. May your gods go with you. See you next week at the same time, 10 p.m. And this time, I won't fiddle around with other programs. I will use Hangouts. And anybody that would like to join, my email account is misty50@gmail.com. Email me and I will send you a link on the night that we go live. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Good night. Bye. Bye.